Good morning on yet another gloomy Friday. I don't know what it is exactly about my show, New York City weather, or what's going on with that, but the reality is that no matter what, we get some pretty bad weather when it comes time to do my show. Nothing horrible, nothing like snow, although I think there is snow in the forecast for this weekend. Yeah, I know. Let's pray that it doesn't go. So I want to welcome everyone to Secrets of the Sire. We are a weekly talk radio show dishing on pop culture, comics, movies, TV, music, and more. Comics especially, that's my background. Been a comic creator for the past 15 years, worked at Wizard Entertainment, doing stuff there. Zenoscope I've written for. I've done stuff for Image Comics, and I've self-published my own comic book called The Sire, a critically acclaimed indie that's still going strong, which is where our name comes from. Always nice to kind of give the lay of the land to some folks joining us. We got people joining us from all over the world, which is awesome. It's always great. We are live on Periscope at Michael_Dolce, DOLCE. Like the candy, like the handbag, all that fun stuff. Catch us on Twitterscope at that handle, and YouNow, and we're now on Blab. So anybody who's looking to catch us on Blab, we're on the Blab beta. Again, Michael_Dolce. Check it out. So before we get going, always want to give our love to the sponsors. Audible.com, free audiobook download, 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Secrets of the Sire. Next week, I'm actually going to offer some really cool, specific audiobooks that you guys can get absolutely free. And all you got to do is click a link and go sign up for a 30-day trial. So really great stuff there. You can catch us at our website, secretsofthesire.com. You can become a sponsor. Just click on the sponsor link at the top, and you get to be on the show. It's very exciting. You get your business named and your business or maybe not just business, just you in general. If you want to come on and talk pop culture with me, go to the sponsor page. Check us out on the Facebook page. We've got a lot of great stuff going on there. Again, /Secrets of the Sire. I think we've done enough self-promoting for the day so far. Okay, so we talked movie trailers. We talked about Dark Knight Returns. We talked about everything except the actual movie itself. First, I have to give props to the internet. Amazing job not giving away the ending to Batman v Superman, which I will now give away right now. No, I will not. I'm gonna continue the tradition of being a spoiler-free review. The ironic part is, though, based on our conversation last week, the movie trailer gave away about 75% of the movie. So anything I do talk about, you will be able to see in the movie trailer. Or at this point, it's a week old. So I think at this point, you can kind of chalk up, the success of the movie or the lack of success or whatever the case is. I think a week has passed. It's enough time for at least folks to have seen the movie trailers, I think, at this point. So you know who the major players are. You know Batman, Superman. You know they're going to duke it out a la Dark Knight Returns. You know Lex Luthor's in it. You know that he has a creation. And I'll stop right there in case you haven't seen the movie trailer, that he unleashes on both Batman and Superman, and Wonder Woman joins the show, and there's some other guest cameos and appearances that go throughout the movie. That's pretty much the spoiler-free I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you the lay of the land. I'm going to talk just around those particular characters, those particular topics, and again, I'm going to not give away the ending. First things first, got to give a big round of applause to Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck, I know. Sam, my engineer, my trusty engineer, here every single week with me, bringing us live. By the way, would love to hear what you guys think, so if you want to call in live, the hotline is 877-480-4120. Yeah, Ben Affleck, awesome. Got to be honest with you. We had a question last week as to whether or not Ben Affleck's casting was a problem, right? Was it going to be an issue having Ben Affleck join this comic book universe? And I got to be honest with you, yes and no. The yes part is no matter what, he has a famous face. There was a soundtrack to a movie a few years ago. Don't remember the movie name off the top of my head. It was kind of like a small indie, and it had Eddie Vedder do the entire soundtrack. And then at the very end, it's not Into the Wild. I know all you music buffs are like, oh, it's Into the Wild, it's Into the Wild. No. He actually did another soundtrack for another movie, and about 2 months before the movie was supposed to be released, the director said, you know what? At the end of the day, I can't use this. Because no matter what, this entire movie sounds like Eddie Vedder now, and it's got a specific sound to it, and he said no matter how beautiful the music was, he's like, I can hear it, and I feel like it's going to actually take away from the film rather than add to it. And he regrettably, had to pull the soundtrack and kind of use alternate music selections in order to make that happen. Now, in this particular case, Ben Affleck could have easily, kind of went the same way, right? I mean, this is Ben Affleck, right? This is Reindeer Games and Geely and Daredevil, and I'm naming his horrible movies, but it's a great segue into his better, resurgence that he kind of, has had in the past 5 to 7 years now, where he has transformed himself from I don't want to be as harsh to say as a joke of an actor, but he was a punchline. I'll say that punchline is a much Welcome back, Secrets of the Sire. We're on every week this time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're broadcasting out of New York City, right around Columbus and Amsterdam Avenue. Really cool stuff. We appreciate everyone checking us out. We're on Blab for the first time ever, so I'm trying to get ourselves situated on Blab. But we'll figure out the technology, and it's me and my trusty engineer Sam, and we do what we can. But the podcast version of this is always on iTunes the following Monday, and we come up with a new blog every Wednesday. We have a lot of participation, so I want to give props to our Periscope peeps, Cece, obviously my wife, who always checks me out on Periscope, so that's always a wonderful little shout out. Jose Johansson Link, I hope I pronounced that right. Coming from Paris, so really appreciate you guys joining. Jose Castro as well, complimented us on a great show. Said I talked too close to the mic, then I realized the mic's not coming through the phone. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do about controlling the sound of my voice. I can't control the sound of my voice. So we're talking Batman, Superman, and started out the show talking about the good. And the good is Ben Affleck. I think Ben Affleck is fantastic in the movie. I think Gal Gadot, fantastic. I think that Henry Cavill, take it or leave it, was good in what he's being instructed to do and instructed to play. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I also think that Amy Adams is tremendous as Lois Lane. She actually, Lois Lane's one of those funny characters, though, right? She never had a definitive archetype representation. You had the Margot Kidder in the Superman movies. I think the comic book version kind of was all over the place because of the generations and the generational gaps. I mean, it's not like you had strong female characters in the in the 30s. So how could you even kind of really compare the two anyway? But then, as time goes on, Lois Lane kind of morphed into a different character each time. Excuse me. So I think the representation of Amy Adams is, she plays a solid, strong character. So I think there's greatness in that as well. Overall, the movie, visually stunning. It is visually stunning. It is one of the best comic book movies from a visual standpoint I've ever seen. And it's awesome. It really is. It's truly groundbreaking. It's the first time Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman on the screen for the first time together, plus a couple other cameos. This is a spoiler-free review, so I don't want to give anything away. Props to the internet for not giving away the ending, which was cool. Would have liked to have not seen one of the major villains pop up in the movie trailer. Would have been even better as a surprise. I think that would have actually altered the reaction from critics. Hello to Elder Kramov. Boy, some of these user handles. And it's really tiny. I mean, my phone's like really tiny. Like, what am I going to do? J416905 just joined us. Really appreciate you guys chiming in. We're talking Batman, Superman. We're talking the review, a spoiler-free review. I talked about all the good in the first segment. Here's the bad. The bad is, I don't know who's pulling the strings in this movie. I really don't. I think Zack Snyder, visually, again, as a director, tremendous. Tremendous. Someone just said Zack Snyder was fired from WB yesterday in Justice League. We'll get a fact check on that. Maybe he saw his own movie and he realized, like, oh crap, I need to kind of do this on my own instead. It's definitely worth watching. It's definitely worth going to. I definitely recommend going to the movies to see it as well too. I definitely recommend being in a room full of people on the big screen with the big sound effects. It's it's a tremendously great film to watch in the movie theaters. But again, who's pulling the strings here? This movie, and we kind of touched upon it last week with the trailer, right? For all those joining us on YouNow and Periscope, we are broadcasting live on talkingalternative.com, so you can actually also check us out there if you want to get the live radio feed. We talked about it last week. There was so much in the movie trailer, and the movie trailer gave away so much, and all the interviews leading up gave away so much. And it's not even just a question of the topic of did it give away too much. We tackled that last week. What the topic also kind of brings to mind now is, are they trying to cram too much into one movie? And the answer is undoubtedly yes. This is 7 movies in one. This is like 9 Marvel movies spanned out that Marvel did across, a 3 or 4 year plan, culminating in an Avengers movie. So this is kind of like what we're kind of like reduced to. I feel like Zack Snyder was like, hey, we should do Batman versus Superman. We should take Dark Knight Returns, which is like the pinnacle of fandom for these two characters, and let's do an on-screen representation. Awesome. Hey, we can kind of hint that there's a larger universe. Awesome. But then I think Warner Brothers kind of saw that Marvel is printing on the other side of the water, and they said, you know what? We'd like to print this money too. Let's make a Justice League movie. Let's make this a Justice League movie. It doesn't have to say Justice League. It doesn't have to be Justice League, but it's going to be Justice League. It's going to be, let's introduce all the Justice League characters, let's lay the foundation, but let's do it all in one movie. Let's take, and again, I'm trying to be as spoiler-free as possible, let's take Dark Knight Returns, which is one of the ultimate storylines that has ever been written as a comic book, and put it into a movie. And then let's take a couple other unbelievable storylines that have happened in the comics and also throw it in there. And let's throw Wonder Woman on there. And let's throw cameos from Aquaman. I know, I'm not trying to give anything away, but there are cameos. Everyone's read about it. There are cameos from different Justice League characters in there. Let's give cameos to the Flash. Let's do a little Easter egg Flash scene that, quite frankly, made no sense during the movie. I had no idea what it meant. I looked at my cousin. He and I are comic book nerds going way back. We've been reading comics for 20, 30 years now. We had no idea what that little thing in the middle of the movie was, but we know it's going to probably be explained in Justice League, and it's probably going to be explained in Wonder Woman. But in the context of a movie, when I first started watching, you had me at this movie. It opens up with Bruce Wayne. It opens up with Bruce Wayne in Metropolis when Man of Steel is happening, and the big chaotic battle between Zod and Henry Cavill's Superman character. Again, trying to be a spoiler-free, but I got to lay some groundwork for why this thing captured me. And Bruce Wayne is watching this, and he's saying, we're human beings now, and I'm watching God's battle. And it's like, wow, this is pretty freaking deep. This is pretty awesome. Like, he's actually touching upon these really deep things that are going on. And Lex Luthor's character kind of also... we have someone from Periscope saying possibly a boom, that he's coming back in time to try to warn Batman. Yeah, I mean, he will be. We kind of figured it out, but we don't know what it meant. In the context of the film, though, his little cameo made no sense because, quite frankly, you had me at this deep look at what it means to be human in a world where now you're not the cream of the crop. It's kind of like the mutant thing with X-Men, but it's not at the same time. I mean, it's a totally different thing. It's like, how do you watch someone who has the ultimate power to basically, he could obliterate us. Superman could literally he could spin the world back in time, back to pre-evolutionary days, if you believe Richard Donner's cut. He could step on the proverbial, worm that creates humanity, and humanity's destroyed. Or he could make sure the dinosaurs don't die out, or whatever the case is. He could literally be a god and do whatever he wants. And that's what the issue of the movie was, I think, what Zack Snyder and what David Goyer were trying to do. I think that's what they were trying to do when they wrote this. And then I think Warner Brothers came in and said, great, now put all the Justice League characters in, build this really large universe that where Zack Snyder's like, we could hint at a larger universe. They're like, great, hint, shout really loud, and put in a lot of scenes that basically, mean that there's going to be this other universe. Because, quite frankly, that's the only explanation for why there's so many characters in there. I actually don't even mind Wonder Woman. I think she does a great job. I think they lay the groundwork great with her as well, too. But then what ends up happening, though, is understand, or at least I didn't understand fully, Lex Luthor's motivation. Lex Luthor is supposed to be the bad guy in this. He goes off the rails by the end. Batman goes off the rails by the end. Again, I'm trying to be as spoiler-free as possible, so maybe even next week I'll get into more detail as to what I mean. But you have this great setup for the first hour of the movie. It's really a great movie, the first hour and a half. And the action is great in the next hour and a half also, but the characters, they just don't add up by the end of the movie. And that's kind of where we all kind of lost it. Batman is on a mission to kill Superman. How they end up fighting is kind of comical in a way. It doesn't quite make sense. I mean, I know Luthor's pushing people's buttons and, kind of exactly what we said, exactly what the movie trailer gave away. Lex Luthor kind of, Clark Kent meets Bruce Wayne. I love bringing people together. Okay, you realize Lex Luthor is manipulating these people. The manipulation doesn't really fly. And then the reason it doesn't fly also is just how quickly Batman and Superman are fighting and then all of a sudden become friends and they're like, hey, wait a minute. Oh, you're my friend. And now I have this deep, loyalty to you, whereas I was just trying to kill you because I think you're going to kill us first. It just didn't. It was a huge setup, little release. And that is why at the end of the movie, as Lex Luthor quoted in the movie, it was a paradox. It was an absolute paradox. It was one of the most beautifully, visually stunning films I've ever seen. One of my big complaints in Zack Snyder's Watchmen was that the mood didn't reflect the music and the soundtrack. In here, it was absolutely on point. I almost wish that he had redone Watchmen and just completely redone the soundtrack for Watchmen, because everything, all the notes, and I mean literal notes of the music in this movie, hits at the gravity of each scene, and it enhances the mood, it enhances this feel. So many things he did right from a visual standpoint, from a comic book nerd standpoint, and at the same time from a story standpoint, so many things that just didn't pan out in the end. And again, without giving away the ending, without giving away the hidden villain, which we've seen in the movie trailer, but I won't name him, that whole segment was almost an excuse just to get Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman fighting something bigger, which, even that, I don't mind if it makes sense. To this day, I don't know why Lex Luthor unleashes that on them. It didn't quite make sense based on what his earlier motivations in the film were. The earlier motivations in the film were to kill Superman. But in the end, Lex Luthor just seems to want to kill everyone? I don't get it. I mean, wouldn't he know that this thing would unleash, absolute chaos and terror in Metropolis and Gotham and all those other great places? One other thing to note, too, and we welcome Eric Tease72 on the Periscope feed. Keep chiming in, Periscope people, even if I don't get a chance to interact directly with you. We are live on talkingalternative.com at the moment. I will be, jumping back and forth. At Faith Delilah just joined us as well, so welcome. And we're on YouNow as well, too. So definitely check us out on that as well. And we're on the Blab Beta, but that's not going as well as we'd hope, but we'll get the technology in. We're very, I don't want to say we're slow to the technology curve. We're very, cautious. Yeah, I like that. Yes, we're very cautious. We're always experimenting, and we're always trying to get it exactly right. So we touched upon the good and the bad. Now let's touch upon the ugly. And the ugly is, what does this movie actually mean for comic book fans? And I mean this in two ways. One, what does it mean for the future of the movies, which I think look bright. I think they'll learn from their mistakes. I think they'll learn from everything they're doing. story-wise. And I think now that this movie's out of the way, and everyone, they beat us over the head with it, but now we know that Justice League is coming, maybe they can tell a cohesive story in Justice League that kind of makes sense. I'm sure Darkseid will be the villain, or some sort of, ethereal threat, some sort of big, gigantic threat. So maybe that will be, what it is going forward in Justice League. So that's the one future. But the other future for me is, what do these movies actually mean for the comic book fans out there? Because all of your comic books are now being completely relaunched and in some cases destroyed to fit with this new movie timeline. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network,